The ink of the scholars will weigh equally to the blood of the martyrs. Whoever adheres to my sunnah when my community falls into disorder will receive the recompense of 100 martyrs. Inspired by the above hadith, I am declaring only a few of the numerous benefits in this world and the next of writing out the Risale-i Nur, which are mentioned in it and have been affirmed by the experiences of its students. 5 sorts of worship. 1. Striving with ideas and the word against the people of misguidance, which is a struggle of paramount importance. 2. Serving their master by assisting him in the dissemination of the truth. 3. Serving the Muslims with regard to belief. 4. Acquiring knowledge through the pen. 5. Performing worship in the form of reflective thought, 1 hour of which may sometimes be the equivalent of a year's worship. 5 sorts of worldly benefits. 1. Plentiful sustenance. 2. Ease of heart and happiness. 3. Lack of trouble in securing a livelihood. 4. Success in one's work. 5. By acquiring the virtues of studentship, to receive a share in the particular prayers of all the Nur students. Serving the Risale-i Nur with the pen and being a loyal Nur student yields 2 significant results. 1. According to the indications of certain verses of the Qur'an, to enter the grave in a state of belief. 2. By virtue of the spiritual partnership within the fold of the Risale-i Nur, to receive a share of the spiritual gains of all the students and of their good works. Furthermore, on condition one has the good fortune to accomplish one's duty to perfection, to belong to the class of students of the religious sciences, which at this time when such students are absent, means being honored by the angels, and in the intermediate realm to manifest the life of the martyrs, as does Hafiz Ali and the famous student mentioned in the Fruits of Belief. Footnote: this has been established through the certain witnessing of the some diviners of the unseen. This is the piece to be put at the beginning of the collections duplicated on the machines. Over 2 years, the courts in Ankara and Denizli and the experts committee studied all the parts of the Risale-i Nur and took the unanimous decision both for our acquittal and the return all of the Risale-i Nur to me. There is therefore nothing to prevent their publication. The pieces in the present collection were among the treatises returned to me. All the developments favoring religion in the schools and the mosques in Sparta may be looked on as conquest of Zulfikar. Just as Sparta became the Nur school and the teacher of the other provinces, so, God willing, it will offer a fine example to be followed with regard to the marks of Islam. Footnote: I have not concerned myself at all with the politicians, but today I heard that a number of irreligious deputies had met in a council with the intention of abolishing a number of mosques. It does not appear to be a coincidence that this occurred at the same time as my being poisoned and Hassan Feyzi's fatal illness. These 3 conspiracies appear to be connected. 2 of them were unsuccessful for now, and the other carried off a hero. My dear loyal brothers, firstly, just when I was suffering both the distressing physical and spiritual illness of this severe winter, in addition to the pains of possible separation from my very close Nurji brothers due to departing from this world, Siddiq Süleyman and Nur Central Sabri arrived here in the name of all my brothers in that region and my relatives, as though they were Abdul Majid and Abdul Rahman. I offer thanks to Almighty God, for their arrival was a medicine and cure for me. Contrary to my custom here, I invited them to visit me come what may, and they came. For 2 or 3 hours, I listened and learned all that I was curious about, particularly how my friends in Barla were, and we made a joyful tour of the imagination around my time there. I received such relief and consolation, all my grievous sufferings were dispelled. I wanted them to stay here for a couple of days, but these bad times and the suspicions and circumstances here did not permit it. I accepted those brothers on account of all of you, and I sent you 2 living letters in my place. Secondly, the second day I received a letter telling me that 9 true Nurjus, young Salahaddins and Abdurrahmans, are making a serious effort to illuminate the young university students whom I was most curious about and interested in. Those young Abdurrahmans are Mustafa Uruç, Ziya from Konya, Sabri's grandson Feyzi, Bahauddin, Abdurrahim, Ömer from Kastamonu, Aziz, Şükrü, and Sabri. Earnest young Nurjus like these embracing the Risale-i Nur pleased me as much as the idea of 10 youths like my late nephews Abdurrahman and Fuad returning to this world and embarking on their Nur service. It alleviated my illness considerably. Thirdly, it's a good fortune for the Nurjus and for the whole country even that the application of Zulfikar by machine is nearly completed. But so as not to lose that good fortune, you must take whatever precautions you can. If to suppose the impossible, God willing, it won't happen, there's a search like there was with the Supreme Sign, not all the copies should be exposed to the assault. There shouldn't be any such assault now, there can't be, for they are trying to be conciliatory. But coward atheists are sure to be looking for pretexts so as to save themselves from the curses of the future, and they deceive the powers that be. So, relying on divine protection and providence, you must act circumspectly. God willing, Zulfikar will preserve itself from attack and will either rout the aggressors or bring them to believe. My dear, loyal brother and zealous, earnest friend in this transitory world. Firstly, out of all my friends and compatriots, I am truly most grateful to yourself and to certain people from Erzurum for your serious and kindly concern for me in these torturous and oppressive circumstances and for your hastening mentally to my assistance. I shall never forget this till my dying day, and I beseech God's grace and blessings for you. Secondly, completely contrarily to my way and the lessons I have taken from the Risale-i Nur, and contrarily to the rule of my life for the past 10 years, which is not to concern myself with the passing, inconsequential matters of this fleeting world, just for your sake and your long letter and the questions you asked about, I am going to explain a few matters related to my situation and the oppressor's torments. The first, one day 30 years ago, while I was a member of the Darul Hikmet, Sayyid Saadettin Pasha, who was a friend of mine and also a member, told me, I have received through means that are certain that an atheistic secret society which is present here, but the roots of which are abroad, has read one of your works and declared that if its author remains in this world, it shall be unable to persuade this nation to accept its doctrine, that is, atheism and irreligion, so has decided to eliminate him. That is, it has given the order for the execution. You must look to protect yourself. I replied, I place my trust in God. The appointed hour is fixed and won't change. These last 30 or 40 years, that secret society has both spread and has employed every device to struggle against me. It has tried to eliminate me twice with imprisonment and 11 times by poison, now it is 19 times. Its worst plans were its using the full force of official government influence against me through the former interior minister, the former governor of Afyon, and the former deputy kaymakam of Emirdağ. Those 3 officials so intimidated everyone and conducted such propaganda against me, a weak, elderly, solitary, impoverished stranger in need of assistance, that escaped to spy on me no official would come near me, for if any greeted me, he would be posted elsewhere, and out of their fear some of my neighbors would not greet me at all. But divine protection and providence bestowed patience and forbearance on me, and their unparalleled torments and oppression did not compel me to have recourse to them. The second, perhaps you recall that in the President's office in Ankara, when disputing with Mustafa Kemal, I responded fiercely to what he said, declaring to his face, "Those who neglect the obligatory prayers are traitors, and the words of traitors are to be rejected." He did not find the courage to respond to that insult and disparagement, but here, a low-ranking officer and a sergeant heaped similar abuse and insult on me. Their intention was to infuriate me and provoke an incident, but divine protection and providence bestowed patience and forbearance on me. The third, in their investigations of 2 years, 2 courts could find nothing legally reprehensible in any part of the Risale-i Nur, but on their acquitting us and the Risale-i Nur, the secret atheistic society made use of certain dissembling officials and hatching an official plan in the center of government, isolated me from all my friends and students completely illegally, and calling it exile, sent me to the place most detrimental to my health, to a life of solitary confinement in Emirdağ. Footnote: either no law, not even their arbitrary laws, can in any way interfere with us and the Risale-i Nur, or, although some of their new laws could do so, because that lofty judiciary and three courts shrink from the fierce hatred and execration of the future, they have not found the courage to declare the Risale-i Nur and ourselves guilty, and have anonymously given the decision for the acquittal of all of us and the return of all the Risale-i Nur. They can seek refuge behind those laws. If cruel non-entities who hold temporary posts commit such atrocities, although the vastly powerful judiciary shrank from it, it will surely bring the heavens and earth to anger, leaving no need for mine. It has now emerged that they did this for 2 reasons. The first, I have never ever accepted insults, so they wanted to infuriate me by humiliating me and to incite an incident and pave the way to finish me off. Then, because they didn't manage that, they tried to put an end to me by poisoning me. But, through divine providence, the panacea-like prayers of the Nur students and the remedial properties of patience and endurance foiled that plan of theirs and drove off the dangers of the poison, both physical and spiritual. Certainly, at no time in history has any government perpetrated such torments and oppression in the name of law and order. Indeed, their constant surveillance vexed me, and their scaring everyone away from me made me angry, but it suddenly occurred to my heart that I should pity these trends, not be angry at them, as follows. Soon, each one of them will be subject to everlasting agony in place of the temporary sufferings they have inflicted on you, and to hellish torments, physical and mental, 1,000-fold greater. Revenge will be taken on them 1,000 times more severely. And some of them, if they have any sense, will suffer the anguish of guilty conscience and fear of eternal death so long as they remain in this world till they meet their end. So I ceased feeling angry at them and pitied them, saying, "May God reform them." Moreover, I was earning great reward from their torments and ill-treatments, and since they were busying themselves with and tyrannizing me instead of the Nur students, it was of great benefit for the Nurjus and served their well-being, and I therefore offered thanks to Almighty God and felt joy within all the distress I was suffering. The fourth, concerning the matter in your letter about my living conditions, and if I was capable of it, to go to the Hijaz and Damascus, and your applying to the present government for me. Firstly, if I had been in Mecca, I would have had to come here in order to save belief and serve the Qur'an. For the need is greatest here. If I had 1,000 spirits and suffered from 1,000 sickness, and was afflicted with that many difficulties, I would again decide, due to the lessons I have received from the Qur'an, to stay here to serve this nation's belief and happiness, and I have so decided. Secondly, concerning being treated with respect rather than insultingly, you say in your letter, if you had been in Egypt or America, you would have been cited in the histories with honor and esteem. My dear, attentive brother, in accordance with our way, we are strongly averse to respect and reverence and acclaim, gifts, and tributes for my person, especially the desire for fame, which is extraordinary hypocrisy, and to be mentioned in histories and to appear fine to people, which is alluring self-advertisement, are the opposite of sincerity, which is a basic principle of the Risale-i Nur and its way, and are opposed to it. I seek none of these things, indeed, I flee from them. But since the Risale-i Nur proceeds from the abounding light of the Qur'an and is a flash of its miraculousness and expounds its truths and discloses its mysteries, we want the Risale-i Nur to be sought after and for everyone to feel the need for it and to appreciate its high value and to make known its perfectly clear wonder working, and that it has defeated the irreligion of the atheists in respect of belief, and that it will continue to do so, and we await this from divine mercy. As a postscript, I am adding a trifling and unimportant paragraph about my person. Recep Bey and Kara Kazım are friends of yours, and I reckon they had some relations with the old Said. I don't want any favors from them, but, like their predecessors, they shouldn't permit the meaningless, unnecessary persecution and ill treatment of my person. I can't abide the physical and spiritual atmosphere here. My distress is excessive. I lack the place I stay on both the outside and the inside. I am completely alone. I have no neighbors really, and pass my life in an oppressive room, all alone and ill. Sometimes one day's anguish here is greater than a month of travails in Denizli prison. Enough now of these 20 years of infringements on my liberty and the terrible distress. In an event, with the 2 years' scrutinies of 2 courts and the failure of the dissemblers' plots against me, it has become absolutely clear that they can no longer deceive anyone with the groundless suspicious allegations that I and the Risale-i Nur cause harm to this country and nation. It would be appropriate if, like everyone else, I had my freedom, and there was permission for me to visit some of the villages around here with a more temperate climate. I send many greetings to you and to my Nur friends there, and I offer prayers for you. The enduring one, he is the enduring one, Said Nursi. An indication of the acceptability of Mustafa Osman's service, who like the late Hasan Feyzi has carried out much work in a brief space of time and is earnestly devoted to the Risale-i Nur, is his finding 2 teachers resembling Hasan Feyzi in spirit and loyalty, Ahmet Fuat and Mustafa Sungur, and 2 higher education students, Mustafa Oruç and Rahmi, and his working at the Nur service with those powerful hands. It's a great good fortune for that region. The wonderful joint letters of Mustafa Osman and the teacher Mustafa Sungur, which we have added with some alterations to our additional letters, shows that shoots of Hasan Feyzi's sort have started to sprout and grow, who will save the belief of many wretched people, God willing. Both the Nurjus and myself were especially pleased at the devotion of the 14-year-old schoolboy called Rahmi in making his Nur lessons his life's aim, thus resembling the innocent young heroes of Sparta. It's a good omen that the young people's belief in that area will be saved. Hafiz Mustafa has provided immense assistance for the spirit of Zulfikar and the other collections, and writes in the very best way that the late martyr Hafiz Ali wrote, and is a loyal deputy to him and truly diligent friend of his in the Nur factory. I congratulate with all my life and spirit Ahmet Fuat, who ensured that all the parts of the Risale-i Nur which had been left to Hafiz Mustafa on trust reached him and the region of Safranbolu and all our brothers there. God willing, every lira given for Zulfikar will yield 1,000-fold profit and will produce thousands of good works. I send my greetings to both him and our brother Ibrahim and the new dedicated teacher Mustafa Sungur and the young Selahaddin Rahmi, and to Mustafa Osman and Hıfzı and all our brothers there. Our respected, blessed, esteemed, kind, and virtuous master. Firstly, and in the face of every calamity, we belong to God, and to Him is our return. The death of our elder brother and his departing to join the Risale-i Nur champion and late martyr Hafiz Ali saddened us grievously. I send many condolences to foremost you, our master, and to all the Nur students, all the members of his spiritual and actual family, his Nur school, and the people of Denizli, and I share in their sorrow. While offering my paltry gifts at the divine court, I beseech that he may be engulfed in mercy and blessings. And I entreat from divine mercy that in accordance with the verse, every soul will taste death. He has been taken from this world to the world of spirits, and as indicated by, but those who believe and do deeds of righteousness, to them we give a home in heaven, lofty mansions beneath which flow rivers, to dwell therein for aye, an excellent reward for those who do good. As recompense he shall bestow the shoots of numerous Hasan phases. Esteemed Master, according to what I have heard, one day 70 to 80 years ago in Denizli, a lofty saint called Hasan Feyzi told his students, "Today a saint was born in Kurdistan," alluding with this good news to yourself. I consider that your coming to Denizli so many years later made that saint's spirit rejoice. Then, a short time later, the late Hasan Feyzi, who bore the same name, emulated the first Hasan Feyzi in his respect for the Risale-i Nur and his passion for it, and entering its fold, strengthened this conviction of mine immeasurably. I thought, Said appeared and attained the fullness of years after the first Hasan Feyzi's death, and the second Hasan Feyzi also fulfilled his duties, and immersed in the Risale-i Nur, he summoned many Hasan Feyzis to replace him, then departed this life. I implore and entreat the most merciful of the merciful that he bestow numerous Hasan Feyzis on the Risale-i Nur, and on our Master who will cause them to forget their grief, and I hope from his abundant grace, mercy, providence, bestowal, bounty, and favor that he will grant our Master a long and felicitous life at their head. Your sinful, impotent, and faulty student, Halil Ibrahim, may God have mercy on him and on Hasan Feyzi. At this distressing time when my soul was vexing me and triggering impatience, this peace silenced it completely and induced me to offer thanks. It is attached here in the hope that it will be useful for you too, for I have it hanging beside me. 1. O my soul, in 73 years you have received more than your share of pleasures, and none is now owing to you. 2. You want passing pleasures to persist and start weeping when they disappear. You receive slaps for this error of yours, arising from blind emotions. 3. Underlying the injustices and calamities you suffer is the justice of divine determining. People oppress you for something you didn't do, but due to your secret faults, divine determining both trains you through the hand of those calamities, and they are atonement for those faults. 4. My impatient soul, as a consequence of hundreds of experiences, you believe certainly that divine providence dispenses truly sweet results beneath apparent calamities. The verse, "It may be that you hate a thing, but it is good for you," teaches a certain truth. It constantly recalls it. Moreover, the divine law that turns the wheel of firmament, that vast law of divine determining, will not be changed just for your sake. 5. Make the sacred rule. The believer in divine determining suffers no grief, your guiding principle. Don't run after fleeting, trivial pleasures like capricious, unthinking children. Know that passing pleasures leave behind pains and regrets, whereas difficulties and suffering yield spiritual pleasures and rewards in the hereafter. If you aren't crazy, you will seek temporal pleasures only for thanks. They are anyway given to prompt the offering of thanks. Said Nursi. My dear loyal brothers, firstly, although it is personal, it occurred to me that I should write and tell you about a strange dispute I had with myself. It was like this. Although the poster you know about that hangs beside me had totally silenced my evil commanding soul, last night my blind emotions, which employ the weapon of the soul even more insistently, exacerbated certain veins of temperament. With an excessive irritability and sensitivity caused by illness and poison, and an extraordinary state of mind arising from the whisperings of a Satan, and a natural love of life, those blind emotions which resemble a second evil commanding soul, touched my heart and spirit acutely, and made me feel an awful despair and sorrow at the possibility of death, and a powerful ambition, thrill, and pleasure. My soul and those emotions asked, "Why don't you try to live a comfortable life? For indeed, you reject such a thing, and you don't seek an innocently pleasurable life within the circle of the Risale-i Nur, but are quite happy to die. Why is this?" Suddenly, two powerful facts silenced that second evil commanding soul and a Satan. The first, when I die, the Risale-i Nur's sacred work for belief will unfold with greater sincerity, and in no way will it be accused of being utilized for worldly ends, or for egotism or self-interest. And since my being personally alive excites rivalry, its service will continue more sincerely and perfectly. It's true that I can help a bit while I am in this world, but rivals and critics can accuse my unimportant self, which may harm the Risale-i Nur and cause people to hold back from it. And if the person who acts as watchman lays down, all the enthusiasts in his luminous circle become alert and watchful. There are then thousands of guards instead of just one. That is to say, if death were to come, it would be welcome. Furthermore, since many of the Nur students have devoted their property and their comfort and their worldly pleasures, and if necessary their lives to serving the Risale-i Nur, why should you be niggardly, O my soul? Also, know certainly that if it were necessary to depart from this transitory, troublesome life while working to save the eternal lives of numerous unfortunates, or if the time were to come, it would be a pleasurable honor to meet it happily. The second, if a weak and powerless man was to be burdened with a heavy load although he could not bear a light one, and if his friends looked on him as strong and wanted his help although it was really him that needed help due to his concealed weakness, it would be most grievous and distasteful for him to try, by being artificial and false, which are extremely burdensome, to appear big and powerful just so as not to offend them or appear inferior. In just the same way, O my evil commanding soul, you have become engulfed in blind emotion. With your ordinary person and virtually worthless abilities, you could not be the source and fountainhead of the truths of the Risale-i Nur, which are far beyond you and purely a divine favor. In this dark, sick age, those truths have emerged from the sacred primacy of the Qur'an and been placed in your hands by divine mercy. Indeed, just so as not to spoil my friends' good opinion of me, nor offend their sensibilities, despite my being wretched and needy and a beggar at the Qur'an's door, and a mere means conveying it to the needy, this wretched person they call Ustad has given up meeting with friends even if not in connection with the work of the Risale-i Nur, and has been obliged to do so by his spirit for their sake, so as not to appear far inferior to them, nor be forced to be false and artificial, which is most painful and burdensome. For to appear more worthy than I am, and to show myself as holding some high rank in order to please those who have too high an opinion of me, and to appear lofty, and to seek the harmful, fleeting pleasures of the ego behind the veil of high dignity, which is absolutely opposite to the meaning of sincerity, would reduce to nothing all those pleasures, O my soul. O my soul, O miserable blind emotions, always seeking pleasure. If you were to receive thousands of worldly pleasures even, they will still degenerate in the situation and turn into pure pain. Since out of 100 of my old friends, 90 are calling me to the grave, or so it seems, I have to abandon the 10 that remain here. Surely, the non-physical life of the intermediate realm is 1,000 times preferable to this life of old age and loneliness. Thanks be to God, the above two facts silenced the second evil commanding soul completely. It was content with the pleasures emanating from the heart and spirit. Satan was silenced too. Even the physical sickness in my arteries lessened considerably. In short, if I die, the work of the Risale-i Nur will unfold with greater sincerity and without any rivalry or accusations. Moreover, it means being saved from the burdensome, cold, and unpleasant pains of empty formalities and troubles of self-advertisement and harms of artificiality, which usurp the minor, temporary pleasure which I don't seek, and pleasure at seeing with worldly eyes the victories of the Risale-i Nur. Furthermore, O soul, with your spirit and heart, this year you have traveled both in fact and in the imagination through the regions I passed my old pleasurable life for which you so long, to see the friends with whom I was so familiar and the brothers at the parting with whom I was so sad. But you too saw that in those many regions you could find only 1 or 2 out of 100 of those friends. The rest had departed for the intermediate realm, and the pleasing living tableaus had changed and had taken on a dejected, mournful appearance. Never again would one want to see those empty, friendless places. So, with complete dignity and self-respect, we should give up these fleeting pleasures and bid this life and world farewell before they drive us out unceremoniously. With greetings to and prayers for all our brothers, your ill but joyful brother, the enduring one, he is the enduring one, Said Nursi.